How to influence people without authority. Oh, this is going to be good. So, how to influence people without authority? That's actually what I refer to in my class as sales. You know, there are 3 topics that I frequently tell people that they need to take if they're going to be a successful project manager. One is presentation skills, because we're constantly having to make presentations or public speaking. We have to defend our projects and our project teams, and the list goes on. The other one is negotiations. We frequently have to get people to do things that they're not initially inclined to do. And you know what? The best negotiators also know how to influence people without necessarily always having a lot of formal authority. And I call it sales because it has so much in common with the kinds of things that people do when they learn how to do enlightened sales. So, I started calling it influencing people without authority. Because think about it. At every turn of your day as a project manager, you probably have to ask somebody for something that they might not necessarily want to give you. Or you probably have to ask somebody for help in an area that they're not prepared to help you with it because they've already got enough responsibilities of their own. But, you know, it's a deal. You're going to have to do it. So, a couple of things about this. This is not about manipulation. It's about educating. That's the difference. You see, influencing people without having the big 2x4 of authority to crack them over the head with means that you actually have to listen to them in order to know what you can do to help them see the value of what you're asking them to do. So here are a few things that we're going to cover. There are absolutely going to be some specific steps, but I also want you to think about what it means in terms of your personal relationships with your teams. Let's face it, I don't know how it's gone for you, but an awful lot of the time I didn't get to choose who was going to be on my team. And they didn't get to choose either. And there are times when I'm not entirely sure who was more cranky about it, frankly. So one of the first things you're going to have to do is influence without authority, even with your team members. Now, back when I was in the corporate world, we used to have a saying that if you wanted everybody to get to your meeting, just bring food. It's all you needed to do. Coffee didn't hurt either. Here's the thing. My late husband, Walter's daughter, is celiac. Now, this was a long time ago, before they had really a lot of products on the market, before doctors got more than half a day actually talking about the gastrointestinal issues and celiac disease and gluten intolerance. In those days, it was so dreadful because nobody could quite figure it out. As soon as we got the diagnosis, honestly, I was kind of relieved because at least now we knew the problem, but it meant developing a very particular sensitivity about food and what's in it. So, you want to get people to your meeting? Bring food. Yeah. What are the odds somebody in that new team of yours might have a nut allergy? What are the odds that somebody in that new team of yours is not particularly a fan of gluten? They're not celiac, but they'd like to cut it out of their system. And then there are the people who think that certain kinds of food have way too much sugar. So one of the things I did was a little bit of homework. I sent out a quick note saying this is when our meeting was, and since it's first thing in the morning, I thought I'd bring some snacks or food, and would you please let me know if there's a particular allergy or preference that you have so that I can make sure that we make sure you have what you want. Seems like a little thing, doesn't it? But you see, in order to influence people, you have to know what they care about. And in order to find out what they care about, they need to trust you to have a candid conversation. I remember wondering why everybody was so complimentary about the way that team came together. Oh, I'm not kidding. They really came together. But when I actually asked the team, so, how did this happen? Because you folks coalesced really, really quickly, and we've gone through all those infamous stages of team development, and okay, we had some very interesting moments, but by and large, everybody here works really, really well together, and you've coalesced as a team. I'm going to be so sad when this project closes out. And one of them said, you put it right in front. Said, you put it front and center. You wanted us to remember that we're each a member of this team and that we're each important. You did that when you sent out the note and said, please let me know. Now, you'll understand if you have anyone in your family whose dietary needs you have to take care of. That's just part of how we operate. I had no idea it was going to be that powerful, but it was. So, first thing, take into account how people are different. I know. In an age of diversity and inclusion, there are a couple of folks who are probably going, well, of course. Yeah, but this is not necessarily about geographic or religious or gender-based. This is about people who have a very specific need in a very specific area. For me, it was, what can I bring to the meeting that we can all snack on? By the way, it ended up being pastries and fruit. For some people, it's, let's all take an instrument together, like DISC or Myers-Briggs. I'm a Myers-Briggs type administrator, so, having gone through that certification process, I do have my biases about which one I'd prefer to use, so that you can establish a baseline for where everybody's coming from and what's important to individuals, and then start talking about it. Now, that can be a little dicey because in some cases it means people have to trust each other a little bit more than you might normally think, because they've got to be willing to discuss their results, their reports from these instruments. But it's worth a shot. Step 2, find out why they're on the team and why they come to work. Now, usually they're on the team because somebody told them to be on the team. Sometimes, though, it's because they volunteered. This is going to be an awesome project, and they're dying to learn from somebody that they know is also on the team. Who knew? I had a member once tell me that the reason that he was on the team was because he'd heard about all this hoo-ha that I did to build a team spirit and culture, and he wanted to see for himself what it was all about because he was pretty sure it was bunk. In a lighter moment, a couple of projects later, he confessed to me that he even thought, I might be putting something in the coffee. The things people think about. You know, one of the easiest ways to find out why people are on the team and what motivates them to come to work? Ask them. Because when you know why they're there, you'll have a much better idea of how you can deliver your message in such a way that it influences them because it demonstrates your care of them. And then, last but not least, don't go threatening stuff you can't actually do. Remember, in so many organizations, the project manager's level of formal authority is, well, shall we say, light. And nobody's going to appreciate it if you either promise rewards or make threats that you cannot carry out. As an example, I had somebody who was absolutely sure that they could convince the vice president of their organization to give them a little extra something to be able to treat everybody to lunch when this particular project was over. Yeah, she was wrong. She couldn't. But she'd made such a fuss about our celebratory lunch at the end of that project that there was no way she couldn't do it. She thought. And she was right. She came to me and she said, how do you get money for those, barbecues that you do sometimes at the close of a project? And I said, how do I get money for the barbecues? She said, yeah. I said, I pull it out of my checking account. She said, you don't expense it? I said, look, what my team members and I get out of that gathering, that celebration, okay, and sometimes the only thing we're celebrating is the fact that we're still standing. But what we get out of that is worth it to me. And let's face it, my teams have put me in the winner's circle a couple of times. That usually means a bit of a bonus. So I think of it as informal sharing of that bonus. I said, but please, let this be a learning experience, okay? Don't make promises you can't keep. You can't be 95% sure you can get it. You gotta be 100% sure. And don't make threats that you're not in a position to follow through on. If I tell somebody that I'm going to file a formal complaint with their functional manager because they've been sloughing off on due dates, you can bet that's going to go in there. Why is that happening? Because I don't have the formal authority to do much of anything else. But that little grapevine of information about how somebody's really worked with you and the rest of your team, don't underestimate the power of that. Just be very clear about where your power structure is and where it's not. Look, influencing without authority, I call it sales. Some people call it influencing without authority. All of these things are based in the importance of having relationships so that in a leadership-driven project management environment, You make sure that you do everything you can with the tools and capacities and skills that you have. We like to be practical. We like to give you suggestions that you can actually do without asking anybody's permission and without apologizing for it later. If you like what you see, if you've gotten value out of it, please subscribe. Of course, if you know somebody that you think could use particular helpful hints that came out of, say, this or any other lesson, go ahead and share it with them. And if they're new to subscribing to a video channel, help them out, would you? I'm Kimi Tsudzimski. This video is being brought to you by the Leadership Driven Project Management Initiative. Thanks for joining us.